My name is Charlotte. I'm on our community team, and this is our part 3 of the community onboarding. This is the bill pay session. So everything you need to know to get set up on bill pay and pay your bills through Ramp. This will be recorded like the other sessions, so everything that I share on my screen as well as the chat and all of the answers. And speaking of the chat, I'm joined by my amazing colleague Brian. He will be there answering all the questions. So type those in, put them in the chat, and Brian and I will get to them. And hey, Brian. And then I'll give, I think, one more minute. I know we're expecting a few more people. And then we'll get started. But if you want to get your Ramp accounts pulled up, now would be the time. And I know you would have already shared this in the Ramp 101 session, but this group kind of combines a couple of like cohorts of the Ramp 101 session. So would love to know where everyone's calling in from, because this might be new people. But Ivan, your accounting system works too. But if you want to share where you're calling in from, love to see, because then everyone might have new faces from the same place. Did not mean to rhyme there, but I did. Love it. And I'm in New York. So Jose, I don't know if you're in the city, but that's where I am. Lucy in New Jersey. Florida, couple Californias. Brian's in Colorado, if anyone else is there. Harvey's in Texas. Kathy's in Boston. Love it. Thanks, guys, for sharing. If anyone's in the same place, maybe you can get connected and empower each other on Ramp. And Ryan, Charlotte. That is where I grew up. Love to see it. Great place. All right. We will get started now. I'm going to share my screen. If we could get a thumbs up or some kind of reaction. If you can see this, that would be helpful. Love that one. Hopefully that's a good thing, not scary that we're going to be paying our bills. Love it. Thanks, guys, for all the emojis. Okay, so we are over here in this left gray tab. We are in bill pay. Yours might look slightly different. No worries if it does. It might say get started. It might have a bunch of words. That's fine. That just means it's like truly the first time you're looking at it. Or you might have a box that looks kind of like, let's see, let me find the box. It might look a little bit more, well, it wouldn't happen for me yet. So it might look like this, or it might have like a drop your invoice in here. But either way, as long as it says something with bills and bill pay, you should be good to go. So if anything in yours looks slightly different than mine, that is quite all right. So what we're going to go through today is how to set up bill pay. So we're going to do that together, and then how to add a new vendor to bill pay, and then we'll pay a bill together. So we'll walk through the whole life cycle that the bill will go through within Ramp. And so first things first, we're going to click these 3 little dots, and then we're going to go to settings. So again, I'm in bill pay. I'm in the bill section. I'm clicking on the 3 little dots, and then settings. And so again, your settings might be like slightly different order or look a little bit different, but the meat of the settings is the same. So just because mine is a fake account, so sometimes things get switched around, but pretty much the same. So first thing, we're in this general settings. This is where you're just going to make sure you have all of your accounts and that they're correct. They're the ones you want to be selected. So I have this main checking account. If that's what I want to go with, I'll stick with that. If I wanted to change it or add a different account, I could verify it there. And then with QuickBooks Online and NetSuite, you have the ability to automatically import purchase orders. So if I wanted to do that, and I'm on QuickBooks right now, so if I wanted to do that, I could, and I could just toggle that on. But for right now, that's just with NetSuite and QuickBooks Online. I'll leave it off for right now. Okay, hopping over to the people settings. So still in bill pay, still in settings, now just in the people section. And right here, you'll be able to add anyone as an AP clerk role. And so as a default, admins and owners have full access to the bill pay page. They can create and schedule any payment with bill pay. So admins and owners have full access. But you can also designate any of your teammates to be an AP clerk. And this will give them the ability to view, create, edit, and initiate the approval process for the bills. However, if they're just an AP clerk, for example, if I was named an AP clerk at Ramp, I would not be able to release payments. So any payments like actually being released, which we'll talk about the different methods of that in just a little bit, but any payments being released would have to come from an actual admin or the company owner. And by owner, I mean the person that set up your Ramp account, not necessarily the person that owns the company. Great. So let's say I want to add a teammate. Let's look through. Let's add Elizabeth. She's my bookkeeper. So maybe I want to have her as an AP clerk just to be in the loop. So if I want to add Elizabeth, great. Now she has been added as an AP clerk. Now we're going to hop over to the approval section. So still in bill pay settings, now just in approvals. And so I'm going to click this edit button. And this is where we can make these workflows that say, okay, if the dollar amount is X or greater than X, this is who's going to be on the approval workflow chain. And so admins or owners are required as approvers in the approval workflow. And that gets a little bit of a tongue twister, so bear with me. But admins and owners are required to be approvals in the approver workflow for any bill. Funds will not be released unless an admin or an owner has approved the payment. So you could stop there and have just the admin or the owner as the approver done. Maybe that's all you want to do. But you can add additional people here to be part of the workflow too, just you have to have the admin or owner. As a best practice from the Ramp team, we recommend having vendor owners listed as a step in this approval process. This is just to help with filtering out any legitimate invoices from potentially scammer or hacker submitted invoices. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But the vendor owner, that's your internal teammate who manages the relationship with the vendors. So let's say we're having a bill to Salesforce. We want that teammate, that vendor owner from my team who manages the relationship with Salesforce to be kind of in the loop on the bill. So you can add them here. You could add them as a notify, like someone who just gets notified, or they could be an approver. So let's just have them get notified for right now. So right there, now I have added the vendor owner as someone who gets notified about this bill. Now I will point out one thing. With Ramp Plus, you can change to the other methods of creating this if-then statement. With anyone, so core platform, everyone on Ramp can do dollar amount, but if you have Ramp Plus, you can do it by like specific departments or locations, anything like that. But we're just going to be talking about dollar amount for today. Let's see. Okay. So now I've said, okay, any admin is required and the vendor owner will be notified. If I wanted to add any steps, I could do so. So let's save that workflow. Okay. And then finally, this email forwarding section, we'll look at this in a second as well, but this is where you can copy this AP email address that's generated for you. And this is so you can forward receipts to this AP email address and it'll automatically draft new invoices within bill pay. So if you just want to copy that email address, I can grab it there. Okay, so now let's click finish setup. Another thing, your page might have looked like this when you logged in. Like imagine this little box right here, just giant. So it might have just said upload invoices, create bill, or forward. So that's what I was trying to show before we had the settings. Okay, so those were the bill pay settings. Just going to show how to get there one more time. Bill pay, we're in the bills section, clicking the three little dots, and then clicking settings. That's where you can change all of the settings that we just set up. Okay, and now in this main bill pay section, we have 4 different sections that the bills will go through. So this is their life cycle. First, we'll draft them. So when they're in drafts, this is where unscheduled and unapproved invoices will live. And they're ready for you to take action and schedule your bills. So basically, they're here, and once you schedule them, then they'll move to the next section. So you'll populate invoices here in the 3 ways that I just showed. One is just dragging and dropping in that invoice and then entering some information. 2 is forwarding it to that AP email address. So if I wanted to forward it to this AP email address right here, that would help me draft the invoice. And then 3 will manually create the bill, which is what we'll do together in just a few moments. So those are the 3 ways that you can draft it. Once you schedule it, it will go to the next section, which is approvals. So I'm going to pop over here to this section. This is where scheduled invoices that require approvals from someone in your company will live. So we know that it will all of them will require an admin or owner. So it's at least waiting on that approver, and then maybe any additional approvers that you add into your workflow. So maybe the vendor owner needs to approve it instead of just being notified, or maybe the vendor owner manager needs to approve it instead of just being notified, something like that. But we know that they're going to sit here until an admin or owner has approved it. They will not be sent to the next step, which is payment, until they have been approved by all of the designated parties in the workflow. Let's say they get approved, then it goes to this next section, the payment section. And this is where bills will live that have been scheduled, received all of their approvals, and are now just waiting to be paid at a future date. So you drafted them, you scheduled them, they went to the approval section, they got their approvals from the approvers, and now they're just waiting here to be paid. It might be that the check is being mailed, the ACH payment has been issued, but it hasn't been delivered yet. The virtual card information hasn't been used. We'll talk about all of these payment methods when we create a bill together in just a second. And then finally, after they've been paid, we'll go to this history section. So this last section here, history. And this is where all paid bills will live. So they're always available for you to reference. They'll live here in this history section. And little insider info, if you click this little down facing arrow right here, you can download a CSV file of all of your paid bills. So all of your payment history. I, of course, as you can see right here, have no bills. There are no bills. So I don't have anything to download. However, once you start paying your bills, you would see that when you click download and download CSV, you would download all of that paid bills history. Okay, cool. So now we're going to click try a sample invoice and add a new vendor together, and then schedule a bill together. So just give it a second to process. Okay, maybe a couple seconds. It takes a second. Well, it takes a couple seconds. In the meantime, can I get some kind of reaction or emoji to know that this makes sense so far while we're waiting for that to upload? Love it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the thumbs ups and the party one. Well, I don't know why mine's taking a long time. Usually it doesn't take this long, but I'm jealous, Ryan. I wish mine happened in 2 seconds. Let's see. I'll try refreshing my page in a second if it's not here. Okay, gonna refresh. I'm not frozen, just refreshing the page. Okay, it's still, okay, there we go. So it's always the exact same invoice, Sassy Sass vendor. So we're just gonna click anywhere into the invoice. And even though it technically says they're existing, we're just going to create it as a new vendor to show what that looks like. But the reason it says it's existing is because it's always the same of Sassy Sass vendor. But we're going to pretend we don't see that, and we're going to click create new vendor. So this is what it looks like to create a new vendor. I'm going to pause between our steps of creating the new vendor and drafting the bill so we can see what that looks like as separate things, because they're 2 separate steps. So this is creating the new vendor, like I said. So Ramp will pull out some of the information from the invoice. So we pulled out the name, the vendor name. We have pulled out the country and the state and the vendor owner. So again, vendor owner, that's my teammate, so my Ramp teammate that manages the relationship with Sassy Sass. So they work with Sassy Sass, they pay this bill, they email whoever we're in contact with at Sassy Sass. That's my vendor owner. Okay, vendor contact is who David works with at Sassy Sass. So that's going to be someone that works at Sassy Sass, not at my company. So we're just going to add in Jake Johnson as the vendor contact. If you take away one thing from this section right here, it's that the vendor contact email is so important. it is vital. You have to have the vendor contact email. Name, phone number, ideal. Please add it if you have it. But vendor contact email is so important because that's how all of the payment information gets sent, ACH, any card information, all of that. So super, super, super important to have the vendor contact email. So we'll say jake@sassy.com. Oh, didn't hit enter. So again, we have the name, we have the country, the vendor owner, that's my teammate. So David's my teammate that manages the relationship with Sassy Sass. And then we have that vendor contact, so that person at Sassy Sass who I work with. So Jake Johnson, jake@sassy.com. If we had the phone number, we would enter it. And then this is where we can enter the payment details. Now, when I choose this right now, I'm not locked in to always using ACH payment or always using check. That's just what I'm going to choose right now. But when I'm actually drafting and scheduling the bill, I can choose any payment method. But we'll just confirm this account number. And if you didn't think all of this was fake before, clearly it's fake now that my account number is just 00000. We'll choose this as a business email, and then we'll click save. So again, vendor name, vendor country, state, vendor owner, my teammate that manages the relationship with Sassy Sass. Vendor contact, so Jake Johnson, jake@sassy. Vendor contact email, so important. That's all you take away. That's all you got to take away. And then payment details, we just set up that ACH payment. But again, when we actually pay the bill, we'll select the payment method. Okay. And then last section right here, we can request the tax details from the vendor if we would like to. So I can click this drop down. I can either request them from the vendor, I can enter them manually if I already have the W-9 information, or I can skip it and just kind of not deal with the tax information. Let's request it from the vendor. So I'll click continue, and then this is where I review all of the vendor information. So again, I have that vendor owner. That's my teammate, David, who manages the relationship with Sassy Sass. And then I have that vendor contact, Jake. He works at Sassy Sass that we work with to get this bill paid. And then I am requesting the tax details. And as you can see here, Ramp will send an email to the vendor to request these after you create the bill. So you don't have to request them. Ramp will do it for you. And then we'll create that vendor. Okay, I'm going to pause for like 30 seconds just to differentiate and separate the two steps. That was creating a vendor. So that was adding a new vendor. Now we're going to be creating a new bill, but I want to like really separate these two steps because they are different. You might add a vendor and then maybe later make a bill, or if it's a vendor you've already worked with, you wouldn't have to do that first step. If it's like a recurring bill or a vendor, just a vendor you've worked with, you would start here at new bill. So I'm going to give just like 10 more seconds and then we can keep going. Okay, I think the point has been driven that they are two separate steps. So created the vendor, now we're drafting the bill. So who is it for? We know it's for Sassy Sass, and we know it's a new vendor. We just made it together, but also we can see that we've had no previous payments to this vendor. That shows up right here. My vendor contact, so Jake, he works at Sassy Sass. That's who we work with. Jake's right there. Jake's email is right there. We're good to go. Now, Ramp will pull out some of this invoice information. So Ramp pulled out the invoice number. Sometimes it pulls out the date. It didn't today. So let's add it in ourselves. The invoice date right here is October 1st, 2025. We're going to ignore that it is so far from now. That's just so it all works. But I recognize that that's far away. So the date is due the 1st of November, 2025. However, that's a Saturday, so we're going to set it as October 31st of 2025. Okay, you can add a description if you would like to. Ramp was able to pull this out from the invoice. So services for sales emails, support compliments, and our Slack integration. If I had a matching purchase order, again, for NetSuite and QuickBooks Online, I could add that there. Going to skip it for right now, though. And then I have the line items. So I can collapse the line items and just do one single amount. I could just have one line item for 3,420. Or I can itemize it out like Ramp has done. So they've already started this for me. And now I just need to choose the QuickBooks category or the accounting category on every line item. So let's just go ahead and do advertising for all of these for simplicity's sake. Okay, and so basically you just want to make sure that this total right here matches that total on the actual invoice. And it does. So we're good. Cool. If you needed to add another line item for some reason, you could do so there. Now here's where we choose our payment method. And there's a couple different ways we can pay. First way is ACH. That's just direct deposit. There's kind of two ACH methods. So if I were to choose that, I can see that this is going to be delivered in 5 days. Now that works. I mean, I would set the date for closer to the actual invoice date. So ignore that it's for 2025. But it's important to note that, okay, this ACH payment is going to take 5 days to deliver. If this bill is due tomorrow, I should not choose an ACH payment that's going to take 5 days to deliver. We do have a same-day ACH payment option. So that's maybe you wake up one morning, it's 8 a.m., and you're like, oh my goodness, my Sassy Sass bill is due today. I didn't schedule this. I haven't done this. I need a same-day ACH. I need that to get there. Great, you can do that. It's going to cost $10. Bill pay is completely free in Ramp aside for two costs. One is a same-day ACH payment that I just explained. That's going to cost $10 for each same-day ACH payment. And then any international wires are going to cost $20. Otherwise, all of these methods are free. We get that question, so I want to emphasize all of these methods in bill payment are free, except same-day ACH is $10, and then international wire is $20. So ACH, you can either do regular ACH, have that delivered in 5 days, or opt for a same-day ACH for $10 that will be delivered same day if it's sent early enough. Next, we can pay by check. And so this is a great option if your vendor prefers checks or you prefer to have checks sent. You can absolutely do this. And so the great thing is you don't have to actually get out your checkbook and write the check. If you select check by mail, we will withdraw the funds from your account, write the check for you, and then send it to the vendor. So you choose check, you sit back, you do nothing, and then the check arrives at the vendors. It's pretty cool. At least in my opinion, it's pretty cool. And again, you can see when this delivery date is. So it's going to take 9 days for that check to arrive. So as a best practice, if it's due, that week or something, probably don't do a check because it won't get there in time. But if you are doing check, just make sure you schedule it far enough in advance or that there's enough time for it to get there. So again, ACH payment, check by mail. And again, with the check by mail, you don't have to do anything. The funds are drawn from your account. We'll write the check. It'll look as if it's coming from you. We'll mail it to the vendor, and then they will cash that check. And Kyle, it's done by Ramp. So Ramp will pull the funds from your account, and then the check will be sent. Okay. So ACH, check. You can also use a Ramp card. And if your vendors accept credit card payments, I definitely recommend this because for you, there's a huge advantage of that 1.5% cash back. So if you use either a single-use Ramp card or an existing Ramp card, you get cash back on every bill payment. And so especially if these bills are pretty large, I know we have a lot of customers who have really large bills, they are getting a lot of cash back, which is awesome. And if you're paying it anyway and your vendor accepts card, it's definitely a win-win for your business. Like it's free money basically. So definitely encourage you to use cards if your vendor allows for them. So single use, that's if maybe you don't know if you're going to be working with this vendor again, or it's really a one-time thing and you're not going to be working with them again. You can just spin up a single-use Ramp card. So it'll just be a one-time card with this total $33,420 as the card amount. And then once the vendor uses it, which I'll show in just a second, the card will lock. However, if this is a bill that you're going to be paying a lot, it's recurring monthly or yearly or weekly, anything like that on a recurring cadence, like it's something you're working with frequently and paying frequently, definitely recommend creating a vendor specific Ramp card for it. And in the Ramp 101 session, we talked about vendor cards are great examples of virtual cards. And so this is kind of where this would come into play. Let's say I pay Sassy Sass each month. It would probably make sense to make a virtual card for Sassy Sass specifically that vendor contact, so the person who works at Sassy Sass, would enter the card information each month to pay the bill. So ACH payment, check by mail, we mail it for you, or single-use Ramp card or existing Ramp card. Last option would be not paying within Ramp. And I don't know, I guess that would be if you want to write your own check, or you have a different payment method, or maybe if you pay in cash. I'm not sure if people pay bills in cash, but I guess it's possible. Basically, if you're paying externally, but you still want to track and log the bill within Ramp, you can choose that as an option. So that would just be so people are still approving it and it's still logged in your history of paid bills within Ramp. For today, let's choose a single-use Ramp card. Okay, and then if I want to add a memo, I can. So let's say fall 2025 Sassy bill. Okay, so I've chosen single-use Ramp card, and I've added a memo that just says fall 2025 Sassy Sass bill. And here's where you can see who's going to approve it. So it's going to require any admin, because any admin or owner is required to be an approver. And then we're going to notify David Wallace. So that's my teammate. That's the vendor owner, so owns the relationship with Sassy Sass. Now I'm going to click continue. And this is where I review it one more time. So I can see that dollar amount right here matches the invoice amount. And when I'm looking at the single-use Ramp card, that's right here, I can see that the total on that amount, so this card is only, it only has the exact amount of the invoice. So it's a single-use Ramp card, not $1 more, not $1 less. It's the exact amount of the invoice. I can see the name. That's the vendor owner. So that's David. He manages a relationship with Sassy Sass. He works at my company. And then my billing address, that's just my office billing address. And then what happens next, as you can see right here, once this is approved, the virtual card information will be sent to the vendor, so to Jake at Sassy Sass, and he will enter that card information, and then we will be on our way. That bill will eventually be paid. So now I'm going to click Create Bill. So if everything worked just now, the bill should be in the Needs Approval tab, because we drafted it, we scheduled it, we chose that payment method, and now we know it needs to be approved. And so there it is. Our Sassy Sass bill is waiting on our approval. And we know there's only one approval in the approval chain. We added the vendor owner as someone to be notified, but not an actual approver. So we know that there's only one approver on that bill. Okay, so I can look at it, and then while we're here, I want to show that I can show this actual photo of the invoice. I know someone this morning had a question about that in the accounting session. Can't remember who it was, but if you're here right now, here's where you can see the actual invoice. So when you're in the bill pay life cycle, we drafted it, we scheduled it, now it's waiting to be approved by the approvers, and here's the invoice. So you can look at it. Cool. So here's where it is. I'm going to leave bill pay in just a second to show you another place that you can approve these. But if I were good to go, I could approve it directly from here. I could also click these three little dots to reject the bill for whatever reason if I need to reject it and not approve it. But I could click approve and then it would go to the next section. But since we only have this one bill, I'm going to show you where else you can approve it. We're going to go to Inbox in the top. And I've mentioned Inbox in the Ramp 101 section. And this is a really great place to work out of for admins and managers. So you can see all of your team's card requests and manage them here. You can see all of your team's transactions and approve and flag them from here. Reimbursements, you can approve and pay them out from here. And now bills, if you are someone that's an admin or an owner, or someone that would be approving bills, maybe a vendor owner, someone else just in the approval workflow, you can approve them directly from your inbox. So again, inbox, bills, and I can approve it or reject it from here. So this just makes it really easy if you're coming into Ramp and trying to do all of the things that require your immediate attention as an manager or an admin or an owner. You can just go through all these tabs and see any bills that need your approval. So I could approve it from here. But I'm going to go back to the bill pay section to actually approve it. So it's here. I'm going to click approve. And then it should go to the for payment section if I approved it. So it left, so it should be here. And it is. So now it's waiting to be paid. We can see that it's scheduled and we know we just approved it. So it's going to be here until 2025 because like I said, for some reason, the date is really far away, but you can pretend that that's getting sooner, and this is where it's going to live until then. So we can scroll through, we can see that invoice number. Again, we can pull the actual image of the invoice. And Tom, correct for your question. But I can pull that actual image of the invoice. I can see, my QuickBooks category, any other information, basically. Description, we can see all this information. So basically, it's going to live here until 2025 when that vendor contact, so Jake at Sassy Sass, uses the virtual card information, enters that information, and pays the bill. And I can pull up the card information right here. And as you can see, it's scheduled to deliver on October 31st of 2025. So we will not get to see how this ends because that is a year and a half from now. But how it ends is this. Jake will enter the card information, the bill will be paid, and it will live in the history tab. It's not there yet, but it will be on, November, whatever that Monday or Saturday would be, after that bill is paid on Halloween of next year. Okay, a couple other things I want to point out here. One, so if you go into the actual bill right here, so again, I just clicked anywhere into it, and you go to activity, you can comment and chat with people from your team on the actual bill. So let's say we want to tag Elizabeth. She's an AP clerk that I added. She's my bookkeeper. I want to say, Elizabeth, what is up? You wouldn't say that. You would probably say something actually pertaining to the bill. But let's just say, Elizabeth, what is up? I can comment that, and then Elizabeth can reply. This is a great way to ask specific questions about the bill or about the vendor or anything like that, and directly tag people. And then they'll be notified that they were tagged here, and Elizabeth could reply to me and then reply back. So super easy to have that conversation here directly within the bill. To get here again, I just clicked into the bill and then activity and commented. Okay, cool. A few other things I want to point out. So again, it's going to stay here until 2025, but in a real example, it would move to history after I paid it. Again, 3 little dots. If you go to settings, that's where you can change all of your settings. And then vendors, instead of adding a new vendor each time before you make a new bill, if you go to the vendor section, so it's above settings, so vendors, I can see all of my vendors here. And if I click these 3 little dots, I can import my vendors. So I can bulk import my vendors. If I click download template and then fill it out with all of my vendor information, I can import multiple vendors at once. Or I can click new vendor and add a new vendor this way. So again, I'm in vendors, it's right above settings, and I can either add multiple vendors at once. So import vendors, that's going to import a batch bulk of vendors, or I can click a new vendor and add my vendors there one by one. Okay, cool. Gonna read the chat really quick. Kyle, great question about the funds. They are just regular ramp cards, which are all credit cards. So no debit cards. They're all ramp credit cards. What else do we have questions about? Relly or Relay, not sure how you pronounce your name. Please let me know. Yep, you can absolutely have different modes of payment. And so you would just have one as the default, like Brian said, but you could always choose a different payment method. And especially if you have like ACH or check as your regular payment method, but you forgot to schedule the bill and it's the check or the ACH payment's not going to get there in time, you could switch to a virtual card or something like that. Thanks for all these questions, guys. I think they're probably super helpful for the group, so really appreciate them. And Brian, as always, thanks for all the answers. And if the checks are not cashed, Dawn, that's a great question. They will be canceled after, I believe it's, let me get the actual amount of days. If it's not cashed within 180 days, Ramp will void the check. Done. So if it's not cashed 180 days, Ramp will void the check. Let me know if you have further questions about that, though. And then, Kathy, they should receive an email about that virtual card. But in terms of where they would access it, it would be in their Ramp platform. So it would either be on their computer, on the Ramp platform, like I was just on, or it would be on their phone, on the Ramp app. They would see the cards there. Kyle, you would pay off the cards monthly. Let me show really quick. So right here in expenses, this is your current balance. That comes out of your total limit. And in payments, this is how you would pay off your statements. So you could make an annual payment or have automatic payments, or the funds will be pulled monthly from your account. And Kyle, it's not exactly a balance, but it's a credit limit. So you were issued a specific limit, but then if for some reason you wanted this to be increased or something, you could reach out to our support team and file a support ticket, and they might be able to, based on looking at your financials and your account history and all of that. And I'm not ending the session. I just see that some people are hopping off. So if you are leaving, hope you had a great and helpful session. And before you go, if you don't mind filling out that quick survey, that would be helpful to know what resonated with you, what you're still curious about, other questions about bill pay, or getting started on Ramp. We are trying to make these sessions as helpful and beneficial for you as possible. So let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And then not ending the session, just I can see that some people are leaving, so want to share that before you hop off. And if you are leaving, thanks for being here. Hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. But like I said, not ending the session, Brian and I will continue answering the questions. Kyle, yes, the recording will be emailed. So you'll get it in your inbox after I end the session. So depending on when that is, 15, 20 minutes after. Yep, no problem. So you can go back and watch everything I did. Lucy, yes, you'll get a monthly statement. So you would know to pay that off. Dawn, any advice for people who do not have software that talk to Ramp? Do you mind clarifying what you mean? Do you mean like your software doesn't really work with Ramp well and you're looking for advice there? What kind of software are you talking about? Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, so you're asking, Dawn, if you use the Universal CSV export instead of a direct integration for accounting? Okay. I can pull some information, and Brian might have some as well. But also another suggestion here. We have a virtual community forum. It's in beta, but happy to add you to it if you'd like to hear how other customers who are using Blackbaud or other Universal CSV accounting systems are doing bill pay. Would love to add you. So if that's of interest, let me know. But in the meantime, let me pull up something really quickly that would be helpful for you. John, that link might be helpful for you. And then Dawn, this link as well, I think will be helpful for you. So Brian's answer, and then both of my links. The second link might be slightly more helpful. So maybe start there as well. Oh, Leslie, I'm so glad. Thank you. Made my day. Appreciate it. If you're hopping off, hope you have a good afternoon. Oh, thanks, Tom. Have a good one. Thanks, Jose. Have a wonderful day as well. Thanks, everyone. Bye, Leslie. Appreciate the kind words, guys. This has been a fun group. Bye, Dawn. Thank you. And Harvey, you will be emailed them. So if you don't see them, I would check your spam folder. But you should have received any of the sessions you've attended. Bye, Didar or Didar. Let me know how to pronounce if I pronounced it wrong. Awesome. Thanks, Harvey. Oh, I see. If the check was voided, does it go back into the payment queue? I don't think so. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if it's voided, it doesn't go back into the payment queue. I think kind of cancels out. Let me double check. Or Brian, if you let me see really quick. I believe it just becomes like done once it isn't cashed, because that's kind of on the vendor for not cashing it for 180 days. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, does not go back into the queue. Dawn, yes, I believe it would notify you that it was voided. So hopefully people just cash them and we don't have to deal with that. Yeah, that happens definitely. Hopefully not very often though. And then, yep, I see that question about stopping a payment. Here are the steps to cancel the payment. Okay, let us know if there's anything else. Otherwise, I can give you a few minutes back into your day. Thanks, Dawn. Have a good one. Oh, no problem, Ivan. I see that question. Let me see Venus's as well. Is it possible to add multiple contact information for different individuals? And you added. Venus, I think you would have, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you would only have one vendor contact, like primary person, but I think you could have multiple people at the company that serve as people you contact at the vendor. But I think you would have to have one primary one. But Brian, let me know if otherwise. Yeah, so one email. So that way all the stuff gets sent to them. Thanks, Venus. Okay, so avoid creating a vendor twice in Ramp and in QuickBooks Online. I think that it wouldn't create duplicates because, Ivan, if you have QuickBooks Online synced with Ramp, it should pull in all the same information. So that's one of the beauties of the direct integrations is that it syncs over. So if you have it synced over, it would not create a duplicate vendor, I don't think. So I don't know. Let me know if that doesn't answer your question. I think that's what you're asking. Yes, double work. Yeah, so I think you would be avoiding double work with the direct integration. But you could always edit, like for some reason, if you did have them created in QuickBooks Online and then they show up within Ramp and they don't have the email address, you could just edit the vendor information and add the email address. So it wouldn't be duplicate work, but it would just be adding it within Ramp. So let me quickly pull this up. It's helpful to see. Like in Salesforce, I could edit the vendor. Let's see, and add that contact email right here. So you wouldn't have to like do it twice. But if for some reason the emails didn't show up, you could add it. And I know I said the vendor contact email is like required, but this is a fake account. So that's probably why it's not here in the Salesforce option. But yeah, you could just go into the vendor and add it. All right, let me know if that's not what you mean. Otherwise, I'll wrap up the session and then you'll all receive this recording. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong about Ivan's question, but I think it would sync up. I don't think you would have to add it within QuickBooks Online if you add it within Ramp, if you have the direct integration. But we'll get, Brian's kind of the expert, so we'll get confirmation from him. Actually, I think, wait, I just found an article, Ivan. I think you would manually need to add it in QuickBooks Online, I think, unfortunately. So I was wrong. Yeah, and there's an article about it. So I think that, I would imagine that's something that would come at some point in the platform, because I can see why that would be a great feature. But yes, so at the moment, if you had it in Ramp first, you'd also have to add it in QuickBooks, which I know, duplicate work, not what you're looking for, but hopefully the feature gets made. But otherwise, encourage you to voice that product feedback to whoever you're working with, and we can let the product team know. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, we are good to go here. Ivan, that's probably something you would have to ask the vendor. Some just don't accept credit card payment. I don't know, Brian, do you know if there's any way? I don't think there's a way that like Ramp necessarily knows. If it's a larger, more common vendor, we might know. But I think that's something that you would have to ask the vendor. So that's exciting update in the chat, Ivan, that that'll come at some point. So definitely stay tuned for that kind of feature. But at the moment, no, but exciting that it's coming. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up the session unless there's any other questions. At the moment, we aren't having a live stream on Ramp Plus or a video. But maybe that's something that we will do. But in the meantime, I can send over this. This will give you all of the kind of the rundown, pricing, features, all of that. Okay, I'm going to end the session. I know we're almost at 3, so thanks, guys, for being here. For those of you that are still here, appreciate it. And if you're watching this later, hope you've had a great afternoon. And hopefully Bill Pay is going well if you're watching this later. And if you're coming to the other sessions, I'll put that link in the chat one more time. But ramp.com/training is how you could sign up for anything else. Okay. All right. Take care, guys. Oh, how to recommend. That's okay. Okay, last question. Ivan, I would say maybe if they were interested in coming to like a Ramp 101 session, they could see how to get Ramp set up. So the ramp.com/training, they could just sign up for those sessions. That would probably be like the most hands-on way to learn about it. Otherwise, you could forward them your recordings from your Ramp 101 session. And then anything on the Help Center is super informative and answers most questions as well. So I would say, yep, either having them attend a Ramp 101 session to see how the setup works, or B, forwarding them yours, or C, having them poke around on the Help Center page. Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. All right, now I will end the session. So bye. Thanks for being here and see everyone later. Take care.